Welcome to Branching Out, the podcast where we explore the vital connection between faith and everyday life. Inspired by the lens of John 15:5, Jesus tells us he is the vine and we are the branches. Those who remain in him will produce much fruit, and apart from him, we can do nothing. So join us as we dig deep. Let's get growing. Welcome back to Branching Out, the podcast. I am your host, Nikita, and today we're going to be talking about all things mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is so near and dear to my heart because I am a licensed professional counselor. I want to start off with my story in regards to how I became a licensed therapist and my journey. And then also some of the things that I have battled and some of the things that I have struggled with along my journey of being a therapist. Let's dive in. I graduated with my master's in clinical mental health counseling in 2016. I was then working for a corporate job, State Farm, and I was working my typical 9 to 5, and then I would see clients in the evenings, and that was like my day to day. So life happened. I was going through a divorce, and I quit, gave up. He was no longer a goal for me, or being a therapist was no longer a goal for me. I had actually filled out the application to become licensed in the state of Georgia, and I did the wrong application. And so that was another, I guess you would say, sign that caused me to give up. So I was going through a divorce, life was happening. I did the wrong application. So for me, it was like, this isn't meant to be. And I started chasing the corporate ladder. I was getting like $10,000 bonuses. I was just, in my mind, I felt like I was living life, right? Fast forwarding to, I would say let's just say 2018. I started to feel empty. I started to feel unfulfilled. I started to feel like State Farm wasn't where I was supposed to be. And for me, I ignored it. I ignored it. I was like, this is good money. I am still at this point, going through several life issues that just really had me down bad. And I knew that being a therapist was my calling, it was my purpose, it was something that I was supposed to be doing, but I continued to ignore it. And I just didn't feel at peace. I knew naturally that helping people was something that I was natural at. I have always been considered that go to friend. I have always been considered that friend that people needed advice and people needed guidance. And I was doing it for free. Okay. No, I truly do love my friends, and for me, I didn't really care. I didn't really mind. But the older that I got and the further along in my journey of faith, I just felt like I was not doing what God put me on this earth to do. I years took a break from the therapy field. I just didn't feel like I could pour into my clients and go through life. Like I was truly going through it, and I didn't feel like I could do both simultaneously. I initially took that time off and told myself that I was working on me. Well, then I got to a really good place mentally and emotionally. And it was time. It would be to the point where I would log in to my computer, or I would go into the office. I would pull up at the office and I would be sick to my stomach. I mean, like stomach aches. headaches. It was just really bad. And I really truly felt like it was a sign that God was like, wrap it up. Wrap it up because this is not where you're supposed to be. But I didn't feel like he was telling me now. I think that he was working things out. Well, I know he was working things out behind the scenes for me in order for it to be a smooth transition. And that it was when it was finally time for me to go. So a little bit about that piece, I would say maybe 2022, I was studying for my exam. You have to take an exam to become licensed. Which was an associate professional counselor, which is a pre-licensed therapist. And I took my exam, I passed it on the first try, and I started seeing clients. So I was still working at State Farm and seeing clients during the night and working my corporate job during the day. Well, fast forwarding to 2023, I got married and I ended up getting pregnant immediately after. And then God was like, now's the time. So I really jumped out in faith that God would cover me in this new journey for me to become a full time therapist. And it was hard. Taking that pay cut was truly, truly hard for me because I told y'all I was getting $10,000 bonuses every year. That was faith. That was all God who was like, I will equip you and I will take care of you and I will be here every step of the way. And I knew that He would. He has every single step since leaving State Farm. So I became licensed, fully licensed this year, actually, after completing my required hours of directed experience as well as supervision in order for me to become fully licensed. So I'm now fully licensed as of this year. And God has really been just showing His hand in every single thing. And I know that this is something that He continues to remind me of why He had me step away from corporate America. I became a therapist because I truly enjoy being a vessel for people. Know that, like I said earlier, it just has been so natural for me to pour into my friends, and I'm very solution focused, and so I'm always like, okay, what's the plan? What are we doing? How are we going to solve this? And so I show up for my clients in the same way. It's important that I show up as my best self. And I know that sometimes it's hard for me to do that because I have dealt with depression. I have dealt with the anxiety. I have dealt with some of the things that people struggle with on a daily basis. And for me, I truly know that this is something that God has called me to do. I always tell people that I'm blessed to have my career, my calling, and my purpose all in one, right? I'm using my degree, both of them. I am using both of my degrees, and I'm so thankful for that because I know that sometimes your career isn't always your purpose. I know that your purpose isn't always your career. And so I am just truly blessed to be able to be doing it. It's all in one for me. All of you may know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And sometimes there's a stigma, right, on mental health. And I've noticed a lot too in the Christian community because the Bible says be anxious for nothing. And it's been hard for me personally because I am a believer and I do believe in His word and Him saying, be anxious for nothing and all of the things. And I used to struggle with admitting that I had anxiety or that I suffered from depression because for me personally, it felt like I was not trusting God. And so it's like, how can I be anxious? How can I be worried about whatever it is? I can go from 0 to 100 real quick. It can be something as simple as I am studying for my exam and I'm getting ready to take my exam and I'm having my natural jitters and but then I have self-doubt like oh it's not gonna happen for me and I'm just anxious about, getting all the questions correct and what if I don't pass and what if I have to take it again? He says be anxious for nothing. And that's what he meant. So it kind of felt like I was being tossed back and forth between believing what his word says and still struggling with mental health. And so for me, in order for me to be able to trust him, I couldn't be anxious. And if I was anxious, that meant that I did not trust God, which is far from the truth. So I've always struggled and battled with admitting that I have struggled with depression and I have struggled with postpartum depression. I have struggled with um, major depressive disorder where when I was going through my divorce, I went through it real bad. And so it had gotten so bad to the point where I no longer wanted to be here. And it was such a low time for me. And it was something that I never thought that I would go through. And I did. And so when I am talking to my clients who are dealing with depression, yes, I can speak from a professional standpoint, but I could also speak from a personal standpoint. And with me dealing still currently battling anxious thoughts, I wouldn't say that I have anxiety. Well, I have not been recently diagnosed with any type of anxiety. I was in the past, but not recently. And so, but I also know that the thoughts and the worry that I have are anxious thoughts. So I'm very careful with saying I have anxiety because I'm not claiming that over my life. I'm very careful with saying I have depression because I'm not claiming that over my life. And I do believe that you need Jesus plus therapy. You need both. You need both. Now, don't get me wrong. Jesus is enough. He is absolutely enough. He is all you need. He is everything that you need. I also believe that He gives us sources and He gives us resources for us to build that skill, for us to help with our coping mechanisms, for us to talk through it with a professional. And so that's why I said that yes, lean on God. Lean on God for the things that you are dealing with. Lean on God for guidance. Lean on Him for everything that you're going through and go get in therapy so that you can talk through those things, so that you can be able to work through and heal for real. And so let's dive in. What I will be doing is answering some questions. So a while ago, I reached out to the social media community on my pages and I asked people to ask whatever you wanted as far as like your mental health questions. And I may not be able to get through all of them, but I will definitely try my best for the sake of time to get through some of the ones that I believe were really good, but also that were really important for me to discuss today. So let's dive in. Is there a database where I can search for Christian Black therapists? Yes, there is blackchristiantherapy.org. Psychology Today is also a really good one. ZocDoc is also a really good one. Therapy for Black Girls. But specifically, if you are looking for a Christian Black therapist on any of those websites, the first one that I named, you will obviously get all Christian Black therapists. But those other ones that I mentioned, Therapy for Black Girls, ZocDoc, Psychology Today, all of those websites come with filters where you could pick male, female, the race you want, if you want in person, if you want virtual, what insurance do you have? And they also have the filter where you are able to choose Christian. That way you can filter through what you specifically want and what's important to you, and you would be able to find a Black Christian therapist. Or, for example, I am not a Christian therapist, but I'm a Black therapist who's Christian. So you it's the same thing. There are therapists out there who specifically went to school to become a Christian therapist. So if that's what you want, then you could definitely go that route. But you could also go the route of finding a Black therapist who identifies as Christian. How does lack of sleep affect mental health? A lot. It increases the risk of depression. It increases the risk of depression, anxiety. It affects your mood. It causes stress. So when you are not getting any sleep, those things heighten. You're having mood swings. You're not able to function. You're not able to concentrate. So go to bed. Go to bed. I know personally that I am battling staying up to spend time with my husband. I have a toddler, and so going to bed at a decent hour for me personally is just sometimes unheard of, especially with my toddler going to bed late. And then I struggle between the battle of, do I spend time with my husband? Do I spend time with myself? Do I go to bed because I have to get up to go to the gym? But I know that with me personally, lack of sleep, the next day I'm stressed. The next day I am dealing with anxiety because I have a long day of work and I'm not able to fully focus. So it absolutely affects your mental health and can absolutely lead to some of those diagnoses that I named. It could lead to depression. It increases your risk for depression as well as anxiety. So go to bed, get you some rest, get you some sleep. How do you deal with grief? My stepdad passed away and it has been rough here and there. First of all, I want to say that I'm so sorry that you have lost your stepdad. I know that grief is so crazy. It's definitely not linear. It's up some days. Some days you'll be laughing. Some days you'll be in a good mood. And then the very next day you'll be in shambles. And so what I will say is allow yourself to feel. There is no timeline on your healing journey. There is no timeline on when you need to hurry up and make it to the other side of things. So allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to feel whatever emotions, whether that's anger, whether that's frustration, whether that's sadness. Allow yourself to feel all of those emotions because they will come in waves and you will not know how to navigate them if you try to avoid them. So definitely allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel whenever you need to feel it. I will say that it's important for you to seek professional help. Get you a therapist, get in therapy so that you could be able to navigate those emotions, so that you can be able to navigate those feelings and talk to someone, lean on someone who could provide you the tools that you need to be able to navigate that grief. I would also say get in to self care. Sometimes when we are navigating grief, we forget about ourselves. Even the simple, basic things, we forget about ourselves, and even the basic things such as hygiene. I have had clients who are grieving the loss of a parent or the loss of a spouse. Not that they passed away, but that they were going through divorce and they are having a hard time with basic things like hygiene, brushing their teeth, taking a shower. And so, whenever you feel ready, and I say that lightly because if we wait until we're ready, we'll probably never do it. But when you are in a space, I'm not talking, it just happened and now you're trying to jump out there and have a good time or spend time with friends. But we are not meant to do this life alone. So get into community and take care of yourself. That is extremely important. Have we become the new sandwich generation? How do you manage dealing with a parent who doesn't believe in supporting what you have going on, such as teaching your kids self care and about mental health? So, this is, I think, a three-part or two-part question. So, I will answer them in parts. So let me first explain what the sandwich generation is. If you are in between like your late 30s to 50s, you are a part of the sandwich generation. And what that basically means is that you are raising your own kids, but also raising your parents who may be too old or who may be dealing with illnesses and who are not able to fully take care of themselves like they used to. So you're raising your own kids, but you're also raising your parents. Like you're having to be extremely present. Maybe your parents have moved in with you and you're taking care of them because they're not able to function on their own. And so that's what a sandwich generation is. And so the second part of that question is, how do you manage dealing with a parent who doesn't believe in supporting what you have going on, such as teaching your kids self care and about mental health? I am going to be careful with how I choose to say this, but those are your kids. Those are your kids, which means you have the say so in what you choose to teach them according to what's important to you. I understand that sometimes we do want the support of our parents, and we want our parents to be able to give us advice on how to raise our kids because they raised us, right? And I want you to be mindful that with teaching your kids things such as self care and especially mental health, I always tell my clients that I don't come from parents who went to therapy. That wasn't a thing for them. And then I have parents who aren't American. So that was definitely not a thing for them. And for me personally, yes, I appreciate all of the advice and all of the guidance and what my parents have to say in regard to raising my children. However, it comes down to me as their mom, for me to be able to instill the things that I believe are important for me to instill into them. And do what you need to do for your children because you are tasked with raising them, and they are going to be okay with or without the support of your parents. So, the last question is, how can you distinguish the difference between anxious thoughts and natural curiosity? So the difference is the symptoms and what anxious thoughts come with and what curiosity come with. Some of the symptoms of anxiousness is going to be heart palpitations. It's going to be sweating. It could be tightness in your chest. It could be stomach pain. It's constant fear or worry about something that either one hasn't happened yet or will probably never happen. Curiosity is the eagerness to learn something. You're curious about, or maybe even excited about something that hasn't happened yet or something that you may be looking forward to. And it typically doesn't come with sweating. It typically doesn't come with stomach pain. It typically doesn't come with a tightness in your chest. And so curiosity is just the eagerness to learn about something that you aren't aware of. So I hope that I answered that question the way that you needed me to, or the way that you intended for that question to be answered. So, those are all of the questions that I will do today. I will probably try to do maybe a part two of mental health. And so, let me know in the comments if you would like me to do a part two on mental health. But what I do want to leave you guys with is There is such a stigma around mental health, especially with our men, but that will probably be another conversation for another day. However, there's a stigma around mental health, and I've seen so many people who are scared to get help because they don't want to be judged, or they believe that they are telling their business to a stranger. And a lot of times we suffer in silence. We suffer in silence, and those things turn into more serious issues where we are so far gone and we are so far away from getting the help we need because of the things that we tell ourselves. And so, if you are battling anything, whether that be depression or anxiety, or you're going through something, whatever it is, get in therapy. Find someone that you can talk to. And finding a therapist is not a one size fit all. You have to find someone that you are able to vibe with. You have to find somebody who fits what you are looking for. And so, if that is a Christian, get you someone who is a Christian who could be able to talk to you and be able to pour into you through the word of God, if that's what you need. However, do not suffer in silence. This is not something that you want to do alone. And it's also something that you don't want to try to go to a friend about. I love that we have friends that we can go to. However, they are not a professional and they cannot give you the skills that you need to get through whatever you're going through. So if you are needing help, please message me, whether it be on any of the social media apps, or if you have my number, please text me or call me and I will help you find one. My friends do that all the time because they know that I cannot be their therapist. So I truly, 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 truly want you guys to get the help that you need and do not feel like there's no one that you can talk to, because there is someone out there who can help you navigate with whatever you are dealing with. And that is absolutely anything. And it doesn't even mean that you're going through something. Therapy could be for maintenance, it could be, hey, I am wanting some guidance on making a decision on, I have a job offer from 5 different companies and I am wanting to be able to speak with someone to navigate deciding that. It doesn't always have to be bad, but getting a professional who is a good fit for you is super important to help you through the things that you need to have help with. So message me, please, if you need help with that. I will be more than glad to do that. Thank y'all so much for joining me on this episode about mental health and mental health awareness. I love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Follow me on all social media platforms. Like, comment, subscribe on wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's get growing.